What's up, 360 family? How are you today? Happy Tuesday. Coming to you from the Domingo bedroom here, master bedroom. So we're going to look at Hebrews chapter 7 today. And I mentioned that we might have a little discussion about this figure in Hebrews this person called Melchizedek. And who is that? Well, back in the Old Testament, in the book of Genesis, in the story of Abraham, it talks about this guy, this king named Melchizedek, and how he was someone who appeared in the story before the law, before Moses, before all of that, before all of this stuff in Egypt went down, and all of the sacrificial system and the Jewish laws were all instituted. And he was this kingly and priestly figure. And he's also mentioned in the Psalms as someone who would be connected to the Messiah. And so the argument that the author of Hebrews is making is that Jesus is the one who the psalmist was talking about, who's connected to this kingly, priestly figure called Melchizedek. And the significance of Melchizedek was that Abraham, the father of the Jewish nation, paid a tithe and paid like offerings to Melchizedek, and how he was essentially subservient or under his authority in some way. So when the author of Hebrews is saying, hey, Jesus comes through or has the authority of Melchizedek, he's saying he's over or supersedes everything that has to do with the law, everything that has to do with the Jewish law. He is the ultimate fulfillment of all those things. He's a priest not in the line of the Jewish priests, such as Levi and Aaron, but in the order of Melchizedek, who was before all those guys, who was before and in somewhat authority over Abraham. And he goes on in chapter 7, verse 26. Let's go there. He is the kind of high priest that we need because he is holy and blameless, unstained by sin. He has been set apart from sinners and has been given the highest place of honor in heaven. Unlike those other high priests, he does not need to offer sacrifices every day. They did this for their own sins first and then for the sins of the people. But Jesus did this once and for all when he offered himself as sacrifice for the people's sins. The law appointed high priests who were limited by human weakness. But after the law was given, God appointed his son with an oath, and his son has been made the perfect high priest forever. Chapter 8, verse 1 says this. Here's the main point. We have a high priest who sat down in the place of honor beside the throne of the majestic God in heaven. There he ministers in the heavenly tabernacle, the true place of worship that was built by the Lord and by human hands. As we see in the book of Hebrews, he's talking about how everything that was before was kind of this shadow. The whole system was this shadow or this metaphor or kind of an example of a temporary earthly institution that would be fulfilled in Jesus. And now that Jesus has come, he has fulfilled all of the law, he's fulfilled all of the obligations, and he now does the work of the better work, the more perfect work of representing us to God. And so I love that the author of Hebrews, again, he's making these points. Why? Because he wants his audience to know that one, there's going to be a situation coming up. It happens in 70 AD where the Jerusalem is essentially destroyed. The temple's destroyed, and it hasn't been rebuilt as it was ever since for the last 2,000 years. And I think what he's prepping them for is this idea that hey, the Jesus movement is something that is greater, and to go back away from that would be to ditch everything that God is doing into the future, everything that God is working toward in terms of the new creation that he's making. And so you want to stay on this train. You want to stay on the train, the Jesus train, where he provides us a better way to relate to God. So remember that today he's your high priest. He is your advocate. He is your go-between between you and God. Spend some time in chapter 7 today, meditating on that fact that we have this perfect, 100% human, 100% God, Jesus, who is holy, who's blameless, who connects us with the Father. And when we are in him, we are part of that new creation. We are part of that new movement. We are part of the greatest thing ever.